Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Arnold, and I'm from the Prevention Coalition of Mercer County and the Mercer Council on Alcoholism and Drug Addiction. Today, I wanted to talk briefly about an organization and a movement that we're a part of here in Mercer County, along with several other groups, our municipal alliances that also sign on to this. This is called Parents Who Host Lose the Most. Don't be a party to teenage drinking. And it is a reminder to parents of the importance of their role in helping their children not to drink, first of all, but also to remember that there are stiff legal penalties for being involved in providing alcohol to young adults or allowing them to drink on your property. So I will go through this presentation, and then my email will be at the end, so you're welcome to reach out to me if you have any other questions. So I have heard all of these things when I've spoken to parents about this topic. Some parents think that I would rather them drink at my house where I can take their keys and I know they're safe and I can kind of control the environment. Those kind of things. A lot of parents think those things. But I have some facts and some statistics that I want to share with the parents out there that feel this way, so that we can kind of dispel some of those myths and rumors and keep our children safer. So the point of this message, the Parents Who Host Lose the Most, is to remind parents that they are one of the best protective factors for their children's health and safety, that they are the ones who really are the gatekeepers and the examples for their children on using substances in general, and in a lot of other ways too. But of course, that's what we're talking about right now, is protective factors against substance use and protecting against later on abuse and addiction in their lives. So, of course, we've heard several times from parenting gurus that children actually crave boundaries and that they want parents to enforce expectations. And when adults host underage drinking, it sends mixed messages. And that's something that we're very concerned about today, especially in New Jersey, when different substances are being legalized or becoming more acceptable, or the PR, I guess, is changing. The marketing of certain substances are changing. We as adults need to realize that our bodies are different and that we have different abilities to make decisions and different laws, literally, that apply to us versus our teenagers. So we need to make sure that we're sending a clear message about the impact of these choices. We have to remember that if we fudge on certain laws, it seems like we're giving permission to fudge on other laws. So let's take that into consideration. And also, there is this misconstrued notion that all teenagers drink and that it's just a rite of passage, when really our data has backed up that that isn't the case. Now, during the time of COVID and quarantine, we have seen a bunch of usage rates shifting, especially among adults. However, we don't have conclusive numbers on that yet on youth use. Some may think it's higher because, all of the stress and the anxiety that young adults are under. Some might think it's lower because parents and families are closer together during this time. So it'll be interesting to see how the data all shakes out. But right now, we're not exactly sure about teen youth use, although we have heard that nicotine use went down, although it's gone back up in the recent months now that COVID doesn't seem as scary to the youth as it once did. And then alcohol use in general, we have seen increase in the adult populations. So knowing the risks, this kind of goes back to that first slide of parents who say, well, I'd rather them drink here than drive. This is a reminder that not all problems associated with drinking and substance use are related to vehicular accidents. 6 people under 21 die every day of non-driving alcohol-related accidents, such as drowning, falls, and suicide. I would like to add into that, alcohol poisoning is very, very real. In fact, there have been several events in our local area about alcohol poisoning at fraternity parties, where friends were there and monitoring them and literally thought they just needed to sleep it off. We've seen this play over time and time again, where people think, oh, it's just alcohol, oh, they're just drunk, they just need to sleep it off. We've seen aspiration, where people have thrown up and then breathed it in because they were too unconscious or too inebriated to understand that, and they have passed away. Obviously, drunk driving is very dangerous and it puts so many different parties at risk, but it's not the only one. And we want to emphasize that you might think that you're keeping your child safe when really they're already starting a dangerous and risky behavior. So another terrible side effect can be, unwanted sex and delinquent behavior, because with underage drinking, the brain development that they are still going through, as well as these substances that they're introducing, lower inhibitions, lower self-control, lower the ability for them to associate consequences to their actions. Adults see this in drinking behavior. Just think of how much more multiplied that is by being a young adult. It's been, there's violent crime statistics that are exacerbated by being under the influence of alcohol. And of course, sexual behavior in general, these inhibitions are particularly lowered and particularly scary and dangerous. We just want to remind parents that this is not something that we want to encourage, and we want to make sure that our teens are protected and safe. Now, this is pretty much the crux of it all, the brain. The brain obviously is the boss of the body. It's the engine. It's the way that our decisions are made. It controls everything from motor function to blinking and breathing. But during adolescence and up past the age of 25, 25 is generally accepted as the mean to which brain development occurs in young adults. However, it has been proven that sex at birth determines many times longer. So male at birth is usually about 26, 27. Females can be even higher than that. So the brain develops essentially from the back forward. And so the last thing to develop is right here. It's that prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex is an incredibly important part of the brain where decision making is made, where the reward centers are, where your self-control and some of the consequence linkages are. Now, adding substances while this important part of your brain is developing can lead to learning and memory loss. It can change the way that your brain communicates and associates information, because it's disrupting the synapses and the way that the brain communicates and kind of rewires it. So something that is obviously very, very important to somebody in my line of work as a prevention specialist is this fact here at the bottom. And I'm just going to read it here. Of adults who began drinking before the age of 15. So what's that, a sophomore? Yeah, a freshman, sophomore? Approximately 40% report signs of alcohol dependence. So 40% out of that number, which is 4 times higher than for adults who did not drink alcohol until 21. So yes, the brain is still developing at 21, but it's more developed than at 15. And 40% is huge for a dependence on substances later on in life. So if there's anything that we can do to stop that pathway to addiction, if that means your child is not drinking alcohol until 19 or 20 or 21, unlike what he considers or they consider their peers. I'd rather them to have that inconvenience earlier on in their life than to be saddled with an addiction longer down their life, longer down the road at an older age. So you should know that you cannot give alcohol to your teen's friends under any circumstances. So I've said this several times to people that my kids might be spending a long time with. Say your rules are their rules. If they break a house rule, please, talk to them, punish them the way that you would your own child. Please, make sure that they follow the house rules. Well, some parents go beyond that. Whatever is good for your kids is good for my kid. And even if you get that expressed, well, sometimes we have wine with dinner, or well, it's New Year, so we were just going to share the champagne with the kids. Oh yeah, that's fine. It still doesn't matter. It's still not going to hold up in court. You are not allowed to give alcohol to anyone who is not your child. That includes nieces and nephews, cousins, etc. And then if you know that a child who is not yours is drinking on your property, you can also be held liable for that as well. If you break the law, obviously there is a fine and jail time that can be levied against you. But I think one of the biggest things is the liability issue. If they are hurt, if there is a traffic accident, if something terrible happens because as a result of them drinking alcohol in your home with your knowledge, and sometimes even without your knowledge, you can be held liable for that damage. So that means you could be sued. That means that you could be paying for hospital bills or other insurance issues. Officers are allowed to confiscate what they see if teens are involved, and there can be personal property that is involved in that as well. Now, for New Jersey in particular, New Jersey is one of the states that includes this in the municipality's jurisdiction. So they can have the private property ordinances that emphasize use on private property. They can be, and it underscores kind of what we were saying on a national level, that you can be in jail, you're put in jail, you can have a fine, you can be fined with child endangerment, and lawsuits can be part of this. Now, recently legislation has changed in regards to underage drinking and cannabis use because alcohol was put in there. But when I looked it up, it really just took the standing ordinance of consumption of alcoholic beverage for underage and just added the cannabis items. So the New Jersey Cannabis Act did not change any of the parent liability. And with that, this is just a reminder that we are a resource for parents and for families and for teens. We cover the full spectrum. We have a senior program. We go all the way down to kindergarten, and we have worked with early education as well. So we are concerned about helping you be informed to make healthy decisions for yourself. We also want to provide that information to your children and say, these are the facts. These are how it can affect you or hurt you, but you ultimately have the choice. I grew up in the just say no era, and unfortunately we found out that negative messaging doesn't work like that. Many people remember the egg and the frying pan. That ad is over 35 years old. So it absolutely stayed in people's memory. However, it didn't really make a difference. People didn't associate that pan and that egg in their brain when they were using. What we aim to do is to give you the information and you make the choice. As a mom, personally, I'd like to say, don't do it. Please keep yourself healthy and safe. But that's not always the way that we can do this. And so we need to provide information about the way your body works, the way that the law works, and the way the society works. So I encourage you to go to our website here at mercercouncil.org. We have a series of events, and we are at health fairs, we are at schools, we are involved with the municipal alliances, and we are happy to be a resource for you and to get you connected to resources if you need them. We're also on Facebook and on Instagram, and you're welcome to email me as well. So thank you so much for taking this time, and we appreciate your role in helping keeping your children safe. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.